I was reborn the day my sister and I were picking our spouses. That's when I learned I could hear other people's. I heard my sister's words in my brain this time. I had to get the best, marriage, before she did, and then she drew away from the loving husband I had married in my prior life. Leaving me, I laughed at her for being with the abusive man who had battered her. Did she truly believe the man I had married previously was a wonderful person? Once again, on the day of the spouse choosing, there were two guys seated across from us at the dining table. Logan Carter, the oldest son of the Carter family, was cold and distant. Ethan Carter, the youngest son, was also cold and distant, although he was not legally recognized as such. Ethan Carter, the youngest son, was technically illegitimate, but he was nonetheless a son. Mild-mannered and compassionate this time, I have to acquire the greatest hubby. First, my sister's words resonated in my ears. I stared at her, but she hadn't spoken. She was just looking directly at Ethan. "Just wait, I'm going to take you away this time." Her voice returned again. That was when I understood not only had I been reincarnated, but I could hear people's thoughts, and judging from what my sister had just stated, she had been reincarnated too. Else there was no way she would be thinking. Sure enough, the next second she strolled up and sat down next to Ethan, staring at him nervously. "Hi, my name is Sophia Evans. I like you," she replied coyly. At that point, my father spoke out. "Susan, since your sister has already picked Ethan Carter, then you would marry Logan Carter." As soon as he indicated that, my sister's eyes shone with joy. In her imagination, she sneered this time. "You may take the beatings for me. In my prior life, Sophia had married Logan. Logan was a wealthy businessman, usually preoccupied with work, and was known for being emotionally aloof. My sister had tried several times to get close to him, but each time she was assaulted and driven out of his room. Finally, because she never had a kid, Mrs. Carter proclaimed her infertile and threw her out of the family. Meantime, I had married Ethan. Even though he held little authority in the Carter family, he still gave me with food and comfort. He brought me shopping out for dinners and treated me constantly. Everyone in the Carter home knew how much he doted on me. Later, when Logan abruptly died of poisoning, Ethan acquired the Carter family's company, and my standing in the home increased evening. My sister, overwhelmed with jealousy, maliciously crashed her car into me when I was out shopping, killing us both. "All right, Dad," I said with a smile. "I actually like Logan too." Then I quietly walked over and sat alongside Logan Carter. I had to admit, this man had an extraordinarily powerful presence. The instant I sat down, I felt a chilly aura wrap about me, making me afraid to talk. No wonder my sister had suffered so severely in the prior life. I attempted to listen to his thoughts, but I heard nothing. Nevertheless, when Ethan turned to glance at Sophia with a grin, I suddenly heard his words in my thoughts. "What a beautiful little doll." A shiver raced down my spine on instinct. I took Logan's hand. Despite his frigid attitude, his hands were surprisingly heated. Feeling my touch, he turned to peek at me. I swiftly let go, and just then did he keep silent. Even though Logan appeared frightening, I still felt that staying with him was a lot better than being with Ethan, that deadly serpent. At this time, I was resolved to reverse my awful situation. I would create my own money, become independent, and rely on no one. Our wedding was conducted jointly in my prior life. We had also married on the same day. Back then, Logan hadn't even turned up to the wedding, while Ethan had come early in the morning, making everyone exclaim he was the more caring spouse. And just as predicted, history repeated itself. Ethan, dressed in a white suit, came over and dragged Sophia away. As they passed by me, she threw me a smug grin. "Susan, where's Logan? Didn't he come to get you up?" she hissed. I simply smiled. "No need for you to worry, Sophia. Just take care of yourself." Her face reddened at my words, plainly choked up. "Go ahead and laugh. Now let's see whether you'll still be laughing when you're the one getting beaten." After saying that, in his head, Ethan Carter brought Sophia downstairs with him, but it was still too early to say who would get the final laugh. Just as in my prior life existence, Logan Carter did not attend the wedding, leaving both my sister and me to bear countless gossip and scornful glances. Sophia was even more happy, unable to hold her joy, as she clutched to Ethan and shouted out, "I love you, Ethan." Then he kissed her. After the kiss, she turned to gaze at me, her lips still moist with saliva. I knew she was expecting to see me embarrassed, but I wasn't foolish, unlike my prior self, who had rushed out in wrath, offering everyone and the Carter family the ideal scandal to gossip about. I wouldn't make the same mistake. I remembered how in my prior life, everyone had chastised Sophia for being immature and unsuited to be the Carter family's oldest daughter-in-law. As a result, after the wedding, Mrs. Carter never showed her any goodwill, making her life in the Carter family unpleasant. With a composed grin, I took the microphone and addressed the audience below the stage. Logan had a crucial business deal to negotiate today. Therefore, I'll be making the rounds in his place for the wedding toast. I hope you all won't mind. The instant I stated that, the muttering among the guests ended. Even Mrs. Carter sat at the main table gave me a smile of newfound respect. The Carter family was an elite home, particularly concerned with keeping its reputation in circumstances like these. A daughter-in-law required to exhibit grace and calm Sophia also witnessed Mrs. Carter's response, and her eyes sparkled with annoyance. Nasty, she sneered in her thoughts. Just wait until it's time for the tea ceremony. I'll make sure you disgrace yourself. Honestly, I found this ability to hear others' thoughts really amazing. It was like having a cheat code for life. Things became so much simpler. When the tea ceremony began, I quietly raised my robe and approached Mrs. Carter. Sophia had her eyes set on me, mentally counting down 1, 2, 3. At the very last second, I sidestepped barely in time to dodge whatever she had planned. Instead, she lost her equilibrium and fell hard to the floor, splashing tea all over herself. "Oh dear, are you all right?" Ethan hastily stretched out to pull her up, but in his head, I heard him mutter, "What an idiot." The entire room turned to stare in our direction. Mrs. Carter's face clouded with displeasure. "So irresponsible. Do you even seem like a respectable daughter-in-law?" "I'm sorry, Mother. It wasn't on intention," Sophia stammered, attempting to cover up her humiliation. But the refusal in her eyes was apparent. If I were her, I would have just accepted the loss and focused on living quietly. But she wasn't ready to let me have peace, so I surely wouldn't go easy on her, with Sophia making a fool of herself. The wedding ended in an uncomfortable rush from start to finish. Mrs. Carter never once gave her a nice smile, but when she turned to me, there was nothing but approbation in her stare. She even held my hand and whispered kindly, "Susan, tonight, I'll make sure Logan comes home to keep you company. He should make it up to you." And sure enough, that night, Logan truly came back. The instant he entered through the door, he unfastened his tie, his face filled with fatigue. I swiftly rushed up to remove his jacket. "Logan, you must be exhausted today," I replied softly. He only gazed at me and said nothing. In my prior life, the staff had gossiped about how, on our wedding night, Logan never returned home. My sister had waited alone in the bridal chamber, becoming the laughing joke of the entire home. When she went to Mrs. Carter to complain, she was reprimanded. Instead, stated her, she lacked the capacity to win over a man's heart. While Logan was in the shower, I prepared his bed, prepared some tea, and straightened up the sofa for myself to sleep on when he walked out and saw the sight. A glimmer of astonishment flashed across his eyes. I immediately stated, "You sleep on the bed. I'll take the couch." He narrowed his brows slightly, watching me. "Susan, are you trying to play hard to get wrapped in only a bathrobe?" His chest was slightly exposed, droplets of water still clinging to his flesh. I had to confess, his body was spectacular. I hastily diverted my look. We have no actual affections for each other. Sharing a bed would be hard for both of us. If feasible, I'd want to offer a partnership. Logan arched an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" After all, our marriage is simply a business arrangement because of couples in our circumstance live separate lives and merely put on a show for appearances. I married you merely to secure a steady and pleasant existence. I don't anticipate love." Hearing my words, he suddenly smirked. "You're smart. It works for me too. I can agree to that. I was simply an average person. I didn't have the abilities or confidence to dominate a man's heart. In the Carter family, Logan's attitude toward me would mostly rely on how Mrs. Carter perceived me. I had no want to wind up like Sophia in our past life, targeted and ostracized by everyone that would provide me no benefits. But in my prior existence, Logan had been violently aggressive with Sophia. I had no intention of aggravating him and ending up in the same position. Peaceful harmony was the greatest alternative. This time, my sole objective was to generate money, create my own business, and rise to success on my own terms to maintain appearances. I had Logan post a photo of us holding hands on social media, titled Happy Newlyweds. This way, everyone would pretend our marriage was good. As I read over his page, I noticed how barren it was. Aside from this fresh post, there was nothing else. Someone like him must have a monotonous existence that night. Logan actually did take the bed, while I slept on the sofa. He had no notion of chivalry whatsoever. Yet I should be glad. At least he didn't force me into anything. The next morning, I was startled up by the sound of Logan working out. He was doing push-ups while listening to music. I had heard that emotionally frigid guys were generally feeble. However, his 8-pack abs and toned leg muscles were proof of his incredible power, considerably superior to Ethan's body. "Stop looking. I'm not interested in you," Logan abruptly remarked. Getting up from the floor, he pulled on his shirt and added, "Get ready. Let's go have breakfast." I realized what he was actually saying. He wanted others to see us together, to make it appear like we were in love. Honestly, he appeared reasonable. I still couldn't comprehend why he had tortured Sophia in our prior life. After getting ready, I exited the home with Logan. The moment we walked outside, I spotted Sophia and Ethan approaching toward us holding hands. Sophia wore a strapless dress, her neck and shoulders covered in hickeys, which she purposely showed off as she moved closer. Her face radiated pride as she inspected me from head to toe. She entirely covered up. She must have been battered last night and is attempting to hide the bruises. Her inner voice resonated in my thoughts, followed by a smug smirk. "Susan, how was your wedding night?" She questioned, her voice filled with ridicule. Today, I was wearing a beautiful long-sleeved Kong song. Sophia must have forgotten that Mrs. Carter detested exposing dresses and heavy makeup, but I wasn't going to tell her. I merely smiled. "Sophia, based on seniority in the Carter family, you should be addressing me as sister-in-law, not sister." Her face clouded. She gritted her teeth, refusing to take. "If even Logan never calls you that, what right do you have to expect it from me?" Then she looked to Logan. Logan said something. I could feel the air surrounding Logan becoming colder in his head. Ethan cursed, "Stupid moron. Just wait till tonight. I'll give you a lesson." He yanked on Sophia's hand softly, signaling her to stop talking, but she was entirely ignorant to the peril she had just put herself in. "Tell me," Ethan. Logan replied quietly. "What is the first rule of the Carter family?" Ethan suddenly bowed his head. "I'm sorry, Logan. I'll address it right away." The following second, smack. Ethan smacked Sophia hard across the face. "Demonstrate due respect. Meet your brother and sister-in-law properly." He instructed. Sophia's cheeks became scarlet from the smack. She was utterly angry, but she knew Logan wasn't someone she could disobey. Unwillingly, she mumbled between clenched teeth, "Good morning, brother. Good morning, sister-in-law." As soon as she uttered it, Ethan dragged her distance. I remembered that the first law of the Carter family was that no one was permitted to offend the heir or his wife. Addressing them inappropriately led in 30 lashes, and Logan was the rightful heir of the Carter family. I realized that in my prior existence, in order to live, I had learned all the Carter family rules. Back then, when Sophia married Logan, she continually bullied me. But since I understood this rule, I never dared to show her disrespect. I had believed Sophia, too, knew the family rules, but evidently she hadn't recalled them. That was why she felt she could still abuse me in this life. By the time we got at the dining hall, Sophia had already received her punishment. Her face was pale, and she kept her head down, not daring to sit for the time under the table. I caught a peek of Ethan pricking her palm with a needle repeatedly. "You useless lady! It's all your fault that I had to bear this humiliation." He cursed in his head, pressing harder each time in my past life. It wasn't long after I married him that he started beating me. He never let me to speak about it, and I had no option to escape. I suffered enormously because of him. That was why, in this life, I would rather be with Logan than ever end up with Ethan again. Sophia, this time, you selected your own hubby. Don't blame me. Mrs. Carter came, and we all stood rows to welcome her. She leaned on her cane and was going to let us take our seats when her attention fixed on Sophia. Sophia hadn't changed out of her garment. She was still wearing that strapless gown. Sensing Mrs. Carter's displeasure, she instantly faked a grin, seeming to be a shamed mom. It was all Ethan's doing. He said he appreciated how I looked whilst carrying his child. The instant those words left her mouth, Mrs. Carter's face face darkened with fury. She grabbed her cane and slapped Sophia on the back. "Shameless, what you do as a couple is your own business, but you are not to speak about such things in public, and don't ever dress such indecently. Again, you're insulting the family in my prior life. Even a maid had been terminated solely for wearing shorts. That was why I had always been careful. I only able to survive in the Carter home because I lived cautiously. Yet Sophia always thought that my excellent life was because I had married the proper man. She fully misunderstood. Why did she believe a nice life had to depend on someone else? I'm sorry, Mom, I didn't know." Sophia whimpered, sweat bead on her forehead. From the agony, Ethan swiftly jumped in, claiming to take responsibility. "Mom, it's my fault. I neglected to tell her." While he sounded apologetic, I could hear his inner thinking, "Serves you right. Watching you being thrashed is the ultimate fun. Awful, what a psychopath." As she was a newlywed daughter-in-law, Mrs. Carter didn't criticize her anymore. She took her seat and directed us all to eat. Logan stayed silent the entire time. Yet as we ate, he casually placed some food onto my plate. I could feel Sophia's furious gaze on me, as if she wanted to tear me apart. Beaming even more brightly, I responded, "Thank you, honey." Mrs. Carter seemed happy as she turned to me. "Susan, after lunch, you should go to the firm with Logan and start learning as the eldest daughter-in-law of the Carter family. You need to comprehend the business. I had expected this in my prior life." She had said the same thing to Sophia at the dinner table, but Sophia had said, "I don't want to learn. I can simply rely on Logan for the rest of my life." She had cheerfully pushed Lost a good chance. Thus, when she was ultimately driven out of the Carter family, she had nothing left, of course. "Mom," I answered obediently. Logan brought me to the company the entire journey. I attempted to listen to his ideas, but heard nothing good that made sense. A man like him wouldn't be affected by emotions. He had nothing to worry about when we arrival. Logan escorted me to his office. "Wait here," he stated bluntly before going out through the glass door. I spotted him moving into the conference room in a hurry. Interested, I followed inside. He was discussing with a British businessman about selling a recipe he had created. For luckily, before coming here, I had already done my study. This deal was an important one for the Carter family. I heard the British man's views loud and clear. "This recipe is only worth a few hundred yuan. This time I'll make sure to shred the Carter family off." I stared at him in surprise. His demeanor was serene and calm, giving nothing away. No one would know the planning going on in his head. He boldly stated a price of $3 million. Logan paused, not answering quickly. Recognizing an opportunity, the guy pressed further. "Mr. Carter, I tell you this product will provide you significantly more value than $3 million. Just as Logan was about to accept, I pulled the door open and went in. I welcomed in English. Then I picked up the bottle of beauty serum he had made and inspected it attentively. I'm a woman. I understand skincare goods superior than others. Your recipe just contains whitening chemicals. It doesn't have any anti-aging or wrinkle reduction capabilities. And as an engineer, you should know that surface-level whitening impacts are minor at best. So explain me why precisely is this formula worth $3 million? The British man was astonished. Logan leaned back, observing me with curiosity without interfering. I took that as a subliminal invitation to continue. Nevertheless, I added, as this is a foreign product because you've done quite a bit of advertising on social media. Many people are already familiar with and trust your brand. So I'll offer you this much. I lifted a single finger. $1 million. I stated. The man seemed astonished. Jack, $1 million is already fairly generous. Consider it over. Logan said, his gaze piercing. No, I interjected. I'll offer you $10,000 for a formula that's barely worth a few hundred. $10,000 is already my final offer. The room grew quiet. The British guy stood up, abruptly, plainly irritated in poor Chinese. He questioned, "Miss, who are you to call such a price? How am I meant to do business like this?" "All right, I won't sell it. It's not like you must have it with that." He started to go. Jack Logan's voice was calm yet forceful. "I'll give you $1 million. Sign the document immediately. And I want you to apologize to my wife." Jack paused mid-step. His eyes lighted up with enthusiasm as he swiftly turned around. I was absolutely bewildered by Logan's action and attempted to stop him, but he shook his head slightly, urging me to be silent. I had no choice but to hold back. "Mr. Carter, you're a real businessman," Jack remarked with a delighted smile. Benny turned to me. "I apologize, Mrs. Carter. I didn't realize you were Mr. Carter's wife." After that, Logan abducted Jack to sign the contract. When it was all finished, I still couldn't believe that formula was only worth a few $100s. "Why did you pay him $1 million?" I said. Logan took a drink of coffee and remarked in a leisurely tone, "You have an excellent business instinct, but you don't completely comprehend the market. Yet Jack's formula itself is meaningless. I understood that from the outset. What I wanted was the brand he developed. While it's not good known, but he's already earned a good reputation among young ladies. With only a little more advertising, I can easily earn back that $1 million. Suddenly it all clicked. So that's why Jack had been so sure. He understood his brand had worth coming. Here was absolutely the correct move. I was learning things I never would have in my prior life. Yet I was nonetheless interested. "How did you know the formula was only worth a few hundred?" Logan focused his piercing gaze on me. I faked an uneasy grin. I imagined he didn't question me more. But I seized this occasion to make a request. "I want to head one of your branch firms in my prior life." Ethan had no standing in the Carter family and couldn't provide me anything. I had always wanted to start my own business, to be my own boss. That way, I wouldn't have to rely on anybody. Once I made enough money, I could depart. Logan regarded me for a bit before grinning. "You're really ambitious. You're not intending to take the firm, make a fortune, and then disappear, are you?" His penetrating look made me feel vulnerable, as if he could see straight through me. Damn it. How was he better at reading people than I was for the first time? I felt inadequate. I had a tangible superpower, but he still outmatched me. This must be what genuine talent looked like. Of course not. I replied with a smile. "I simply want to find something to do." I added. Logan took a drink of his coffee and nodded. "All right, but you need to learn from me first before I let you take command for the next 3 days." I followed Logan to the firm and learned a lot, not just about business, but also about how to navigate relationships and social situations. Surprise, one day, he took the effort to invite me out for supper, and not just any place. It was the most exquisite Western restaurant in town. I didn't expect to run into Sophia and Ethan there. Sophia had started cutting his steak for him, but the instant she noticed Logan and me walk in, she immediately placed down her knife and food, appearing surprised. "Susan, you're here too." She hurriedly recognized her error and corrected herself. "I mean brother-sister-in-law. You're here for supper as well." The following second, I heard her inner thoughts. "What the hell of all times? Why did I have to run into her? Now I can't lose face." "Okay," I remarked with a smile. Logan and I came to have supper together. As I spoke, I took the initiative to loop my arm through Logan's. He didn't resist. Ethan swiftly went up and greeted our brother-sister-in-law. Logan didn't recognize them. Instead, he pushed me toward a table and placed us down. I caught the furious expression in Sophia's eyes as she watched us. She was undoubtedly wondering why Logan hadn't slapped me. Yet, why had he even taken me out to dinner when I went to the toilet? Sophia was waiting for me outside. Her look was homicidal, precisely like the face she had when she drove into me in my prior life. "You must be getting beaten up behind closed doors," she hissed. "Stop pretending. Just looking at you makes me ill." Hearing her words, I smiled gently. Then my eyes rested on the needle wounds on her arm. "Oh, my Sophia," I questioned with mocking worry, "what happened to your arm? So many needle marks." Her eyes flashed with alarm as she hastily covered her arm, angry at me. "None of your concern. It's just something enjoyable between Ethan and me." Then she grinned, leaning closer. "Not that you'd realize, Logan probably hasn't even touched you. Has he? Unlike Ethan, he wants me all night long. I'm weary." She was plainly unhappy, but yet attempting to appear superior. I wondered how long she could put up this charade. "That's great," I responded with a big smile. "I wish you both a lifetime of pleasure." I turned to go, but she suddenly grabbed a fistful of my hair and tugged hard. "Why are you mocking me?" she growled. I scowled. She was just as wild as she had been in my prior life. I strained to get free, but before I could, Logan appeared out of nowhere. Without hesitation, he kicked her away, disrespecting. "Your sister-in-law," he said coldly, standing over her. "Do you know what the punishment for it is?" I remembered the punishment was being trapped in the basement jail. Had been put there once previously because of Sophia. That location was filled with many rats, cockroaches, and snakes. She knew just what fate awaiting her. Her face became deathly pale. "Brother, I didn't intend to please. Don't do this." But Logan was never one to be soft-hearted. Once he made a choice, he never altered his mind. He ordered Ethan to take her away. I heard Ethan curse in his thoughts. Hope she dies in there. Less bother for me. Logan pulled me back to our bedroom and examined my head. Are you okay? I'm fine, I responded, waving his touch away. She just tugged my hair a little. I adjusted my clothing and fixed my hair before staring at him. But why did you suddenly come to the restroom? His black eyes met mine. You were gone for a long. I was ready to question why you got into a dispute with her again. I hesitated. I couldn't exactly tell him that Sophia had been reincarnated and was purposely targeting me. So I just replied. She informed me that she and Ethan are intimate every night and that they're extremely happy, unlike you who won't even touch me. That's why we argued. Hearing my words, Logan's eyes darkened somewhat. So are you implying at something I quickly recognized he had misread me? Raising my hands in a panic, I immediately said, No, that's exactly what I meant. I was simply telling why we argued. Logan glanced at me closely. Susan, have you ever considered about doing that with me? Of course not. I blurted out without hesitation. I told you, I just want to rely on you for a steady life. That's all, he pressed. I nodded firmly. He said nothing else. Instead, he quickly shut the door behind him and departed. I had no idea which portion of my remarks had hurt him, nor did I care. I simply wanted to focus on my own goals. The next day, Logan didn't take me to the firm. Instead, he assigned me to the branch office to handle it on my own. I put myself into running. The company resolved to make $10 million before going away every day. I followed down ventures, negotiated deals, and brought in big gains. Mrs. Carter even authorized me to collect my portion of revenues. And just as I was revving in my financial triumph, Sophia was finally liberated from the subterranean jail. That day, I had just left work and come home when I saw her. She had dropped a lot of weight, yet she was still neatly groomed. Her makeup, flawless, her clothing, beautiful. She clutched to Ethan as they went near me. Step by step, sister-in-law. She murmured pleasantly, I have sought Mom for permission to study the firm business from you. I want to alleviate your job. But in her head, I heard very soon, I'll make sure you and Logan die together. A sudden understanding hit me. Logan's death in my prior life had been unexpected and mysterious. Therefore, it was Ethan he was the one who had created it. And now, not only did he want to murder Logan, but he wanted to kill me too. I suppressed my emotions and smiled at Sophia. Wonderful, you can start tomorrow. I purposefully consented since I wanted to know precisely what they were preparing. Sure enough, the following second, I heard her inner thoughts. What an idiot. Just wait. I'll murder you both shortly and live freely. So she had spent days in the subterranean jail, but was still clear-headed. Too bad she didn't know I could hear her thinking there was no way she could kill me. Logan had died from poisoning in my former life. Now I recalled the time I had spotted a cabinet full of multicolored vials in Ethan's basement. Back then, he routinely used them to experiment on me. Sometimes they made me pass out. Other times, they set my body into overdrive thinking about it. Now those were presumably his poison samples. I took Sophia to the corporation and made her start as an intern. She had learned to suppress her feelings, now complying to all I said without reluctance. I understood precisely why she was painstakingly preparing a murder. Ethan wanted Logan and me dead, but Sophia, she wanted Ethan dead too. It was something I could use to my advantage. It didn't take long before I got my plan in motion behind Logan's back. I went to locate Ethan. I knew him well. He preferred submissive ladies. That was how I had lived by his side for so long in my prior life. So this time, I purposefully dressed provocatively and stared at him with mild admiration. Ethan, I like you. His attention was quickly piqued. Sister-in-law, aren't you frightened? My brother would murder you. I bit my lip, trying to be bashful. I've always wanted to be with you. Then I dropped my voice and added, also, I have something essential to tell you. He leaned in. Curious Sophia wants to poison you. I whispered yesterday at the firm. I overheard her talking to a man about it. Ethan's face darkened quickly, fury blazing in his eyes. Are you serious? Of course, I nodded. She said you constantly strike her, so she's going to murder you. She wants to climb to power on her own because of my past life recollections. I understood just how to mislead him. Hearing my words, Ethan believed me totally. His deepest secrets, his violent nature, his brutality were known only to Sophia and himself. No one else could possibly know that be. He spat, I'll make her pay. Then he looked to me with a sly smile. Sister-in-law, just wait after I get rid of both Logan and her. You'll be my wife after stating that Ethan departed. Hey, does he really think I'm so foolish? There was no way I would follow him without wasting any time. I headed right to Logan. His life didn't directly affect me, yet in this life he had helped me. He had provided me options to generate money and had even taken the time to share business techniques with me when I visited his office and told him everything. He seemed astonished. Do you have any proof that Ethan intends to kill me? I brought out a tape recorder and played back our discussion. The first half was me purposely luring Ethan to acquire his trust, although I embarrassed at how flirty I sounded, so I immediately explained I was simply acting to earn his trust. Logan didn't answer, but his face darkened somewhat, detecting the shift in his emotions. I carefully stopped my mouth. The next second, he swiftly pulled me into his arms, the aroma of pine wood surrounding me, and I could hear his heart pounding steadily against my ear. I froze utterly, taken off guard. He peered down at me, his eyes fierce. Susan, I warn you never to have thoughts of betraying me. As long as you are my wife, you should be loyal to me, this moron. How did he twist the scenario into this ignore about it for now? I stated, shifting the conversation. The essential point is that your brother is plotting to kill you. What do you want to do about it? Logan's expression stayed indifferent. Let's see whether he genuinely has the capacity to kill me. If he fails, then he's the one who dies. It was as if he didn't take Ethan's plot seriously at all that night. Instead of keeping careful, he even took me to a dinner, stating it would assist with the branch company's development and allow me to meet new clients. As soon as we came inside, I could sense the weight of endless steps. Most of them weren't nice. Men are all the same. If I had known I wouldn't have brought her along, I immediately heard Logan's inner voice and turned to gaze at him in disbelief. His expression was entirely expressionless. Did he just believe that? What does he mean by that? Catching my stare, he looked down at me. What's wrong? I immediately shook my head. Nothing. But then I heard another thought from him. She's so dumb. I was astonished. The cold and arrogant CEO in my memories was thinking. This I forced myself to keep calm and kept my emotions in check. After the luncheon Logan took brought me home, Sophia and Ethan were waiting for us in the living room. Sophia smiled pleasantly and welcomed us to supper. Ethan, on the other hand, couldn't stop gazing at my chest. Then, with an easygoing grin, he said, Brother, sister-in-law, Sophia and I purchased some very excellent items today. Come eat with us. Darn it, could he be any more evident? I honestly couldn't comprehend how had Logan fell for such a pitiful trap in my prior life. The dining table was laden with lovely foods, but I didn't dare eat a single mouthful under the table. I groped for Logan's hand and gripped it as a warning. But the next second before I could respond, he had already scooped up his chopsticks and taken a mouthful that tastes excellent, he added casually. Leeton all eat. As Sophia and Ethan shared a short glance, their eyes gleaming with excitement, my panic rose. I sank my claws into Logan's palm, trying to tell him to stop, but he didn't even flinch. I really told him they were attempting to murder him. Why is he still eating? As soon as that idea entered my mind, Logan and Sophia both slumped onto the table. Mrs. Carter burst in at that time, her face enraged guards. Take these two dirty traitors to the subterranean jail. They are never to leave again. I hardly had time to grasp what was occurring before Logan turned his head toward me, his lips twisting into a small sneer. Susan, I'm not as naive as you believe. He said I previously formed my mother to put security cameras throughout the home. The instant Ethan tainted the drinks, we switched them out instead of poison. They're the ones who drank sedatives. Then his voice sank somewhat. Yet you appeared incredibly terrified for me just now. You're not falling for me, are you? For some reason, my heart began rushing at his words. I'm not, I answered hurriedly. I was simply frightened that if you died, I'd have no one to rely on. He gave out a bright smile. Is that so? Both Sophia and Ethan locked away in the basement jail? I finally sighed a sigh of relief. The two individuals I feared majority were now out of the picture. I had also acquired enough money. Now the only thing left was to bring up divorce with Logan. But I had been waiting for a chance, and Logan had been terribly busy, scarcely coming home. I could only wait for the perfect time. That day, I learned from the maids that Ethan and Sophia had been persistently requesting to see me. I opted to see Sophia first. Her hair was a mess, and she looked fatigued, but her eyes still burned with unwillingness. How did you know I was attempting to murder you? How did you find out at the following second? Her eyes widened in epiphany. I see you came back too, didn't you? I smiled and glanced at her. Sophia, you're only discovering that now. Her face twisted in fury as she pounced at the bars, clutching them firmly, as if she wanted to rip me apart. You tiny bee, you've been concealing so well. You knew Ethan was a monster all along, didn't you? You simply stood by and watched me jump into the abyss. Susan, you're so nasty. I met her gaze, looking at a face that bore some similarity to mine. She was my sister by blood. However, in my former existence, she had personally murdered me. If I hadn't been able to hear ideas in this life, I would have died all over again. You picked Ethan yourself. You also selected Logan. No matter who you pick, you're never pleased, so you blame me. But have you ever thought that the true problem is you? I remarked coldly. You want to rely on guys. I simply want to rely on myself. That's the difference between us. So why do things usually go perfectly for you? No matter who you're with, she yelled in rage. You think my life is easy. I sneered. I've been battling for my survival. Every step of the way, I earned all I have. But you've never put in any effort. You expect people to help you. That's why you deserve this fate with that. I turned and walked away behind me. Sophia yelled in rage. Just you wait next time, I won't lose to you. Next, I went to meet Ethan. He was gently folding a blanket. Certain habits, never altered his obsessive-compulsive tendencies, were still there. When he spotted me, he actually giggled. Susan, you're witty. He said, you're a terrific actress. You know, I honestly believed you wanted to be with me. I was totally prepared to murder Sophia and Logan for you. But you gave me quite the surprise. You deserved it. I snapped, looking at him. His face clashed with the twisted vision of him from my prior life, the monster who had tormented me. My fury blazed even hotter. He made slow, deliberate strides toward me, his stare skimming over me from head to toe. If I wasn't tied up here, he mumbled, I'd pin you down and inject you with something that would make you experience perfect bliss. I couldn't listen longer. Ethan, you're going to suffer in hell. I spat before turning and fleeing away. Even after I exited the underground jail, my breath was still wobbly. I couldn't erase the memory of his crazed look, but at least in this life, I had finally escaped him that night. Logan got home intoxicated. The instant he entered into the bedroom, he lurched forward, smashing into me. We both tumbled to the floor. You're drunk, I whispered, attempting to shove him off. I'll go make you some sobering tea. But he didn't move. Instead, he started unbuttoning his shirt, his pierced eyes locking onto mine with passionate possessiveness. I froze in that second I saw he wasn't intoxicated at all. Logan, think carefully about what you're doing, I replied, my voice stern. We just partners. You are not allowed to touch me. He suddenly seized my mouth and said in my ear, no matter what, you are my wife and I will touch you. I pulled him away. No, I want a divorce. You can't touch me. The room went into perfect quiet. Logan's face clouded. He gently released me, his countenance unwritable. I knew it, he mumbled. I knew you were preparing to abandon me. There was something about the way he said it. He seemed defeated, Susan. You're a cruel lady, he said. Have you already forgotten me? I scowled. What do you mean? His deep black eyes fastened into mine. Do you recall Chase? His words took me back into childhood memories. I was still at elementary school back then. There was a lad with long hair who usually wore mask. The other students continuously teased him, calling him weak and girly, but I stood up for him, covering him from their taunts and leading him to the back of the school. You can't be this frightened. I told him you have to learn to protect yourself. He slowly lifted his head and pulled off his mask. Thank you, he replied quietly. I simply want to grow out my hair so I may gift it to my aunt, who has cancer. It was the first time I saw his face, and I was surprised. He was very attractive at that time. I fell for him at first sight from that day on. I kept by his side, guarding him every day. He told me his name was Chase. Subsequently, his aunt passed away, and he went away. I've been seeking for you all these years. Logan continued, his voice quiet, until the day I realized I could hear your thoughts. I didn't understand you were the person I had been hunting for all along. Since I can only hear your thoughts. He let out a little bitter giggle. I never disclosed myself because I was waiting for you to come to me first. I wanted to see whether you still recalled me. His voice got even quieter. Then one day I heard your thoughts. You told that after you saved up 10 million, you would leave me. His eyes became crimson. That's why I've been avoiding you these last several days. I didn't want to confront the idea that you were about to abandon me. I was completely startled. I had never anticipated something so coincidence to survive in this universe. Logan could also hear people's thoughts, and in that instant, I knew he had been testing me all along. So that's why you knew I could hear your thoughts, he muttered. You purposefully thought those things to prove it, didn't you? I dropped my look. I'm sorry, I never intended to exploit you. I was just frightened of being abandoned again. That's why I felt I should build up enough money and depart on my own conditions. Do you still want to leave me now? He said. I shook my head before I had wanted to go, since I thought he didn't love me. I believed remaining by his side would never offer me happiness. Therefore, I was better off relying on myself. But since I knew he was Chase, he had been waiting, wanted me all this time, so I would remain. Suddenly, I knew why. In my past life, he had rejected Sophia so vehemently he had understood that she wasn't me. That's why he never touched her. When that notion sunk in, I felt the warmth of his lips push lightly against my cheek, linger with me forever. Susan, he said. My eyes welled up with tears. Yes, I choked out forever. Thank God I was given this second shot at life. Thank God I didn't miss the one I was supposed to love.